Well, hello, I'm Jeff Baumgartner, a senior editor at Light Reading, and welcome to Signal Strength, a podcast from Light Reading, focused on all things broadband, video, and streaming, and where we break down some of the headlines in those categories with an emphasis on the technologies, policies, and people that are driving them all forward. And in this episode of Signal Strength, I caught up with my former colleague, Mike Dano, who is now a lead analyst with Ookla. And as we head into the holiday season, Mike and I jumped in some of the industry headlines, particularly in areas of mobile, Spectrum, and of course, the battle for Warner Brothers Discovery. And on the Spectrum side, Mike offered his thoughts on the coming upper C-band auction, and if we're going to see some of the usual suspects like the MNOs, or if there's going to be some possible dark horses lurking. And he also weighed in on how and why Starlink might turn the Starlink mobile trademark into some sort of service down the line, and what Elon Musk and company might need to do in order to turn that into a reality versus just a trademark filing sitting out there. And we talked a little bit about Trump Mobile, which is still lacking that T1 Gold phone and is evidently we're starting to sell some refurbished devices at the moment and doing it at a premium price. And then we wrap things up with the Warner Brothers Discovery situation, looking at it through the consumer lens and what it might do to the streaming sector as well as the theatrical market. And here you're going to learn a little bit about the high bar that Mike has set in terms of what gets him into the theaters these days. So let's get to it. Well, hello, Mike Dano. How are you?
Hi, Jeff. I'm okay. How are you? Hi, former colleague. How's it going?
I'm good. Yeah, we miss you, but this time you're going to be a guest, right? So, welcome to the relatively new Signal Strength podcast. Good to see you. This is the first time we've really chatted, I think, since you left the hallowed halls of Light Reading and joined Ookla as a lead industry analyst. Is that the title?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Okay.
Different role, same stuff. We'll talk about the same stuff. So.
Oh, good. Okay.
Very little change.
Yeah. So I thought, we'll riff on maybe some of the headlines in some areas like broadband, mobile, what's going on in Spectrum, a lot of the stuff that so well, and video, right? We can't have a talk without at least mentioning the Warner Brothers saga. So I'm not going to ask you we won't talk about the deal in too much detail, but I have some thoughts for you to respond to. So we'll get
we'll get there. And I want to hear what you have to say about that. So if there's a big, I think that's the biggest deal in recent history. So yeah, definitely worth mentioning, right?
Yeah. It's been interesting to follow all the intrigue there.
Yeah.
So, but before we dive in, just get everybody up to speed. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, we used to work together when I was at Light Reading, and so I have been a journalist for these many years. I think it was nearing on almost 25 years. And earlier this year, I made the jump into the analyst game and joined the analyst team here at Ookla. And so here in my new position, I get to basically look through all the Ookla data lake for all the interesting things that you can find in the Ookla data lake. And so, and for those who are not super familiar with Ookla, there's actually 4 different companies within Ookla. There's Ekahau, which installs Wi-Fi networks. There is RootMetrics, which does controlled drive testing for mobile networks. There's Down Detector, which is the tracks whether a website or service is up and down. And then there's the speed test that most people know about. And so speed test is not only where you click the button and test your speeds, but it also has some background activity that can track performance of wireless networks from the speed test app, as well as other apps that have the Ookla SDK in them. And so when I talk about the Ookla data lake, a lot of the data from all those different businesses filters down into the data sets that we use for our analysis. So I get to sort of troll through all those data sets and see what's going on, what's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, because you've been putting out some reports based on some things that you've been able to pull out of there recently. So we've been appreciating getting that. And then, are you like in a real office right now?
I am in a. I know. It's. I feel like an adult. I've grown up, and this is what adulthood is
Got a
like. I'm in an
jacket.
office. I'm wearing a suit. If you haven't noticed, I look
I
pretty
did
snazzy.
notice. Yeah.
I haven't gotten a haircut yet, but that's okay.
You know, yeah,
That's fine.
get
But
dressed
yeah,
first, then yeah, then you can work on everything else. No, but no, you're looking very good.
snazzy.
So it's not like well, I guess what's it been not being all the way neck deep in the news. I mean, I see that you're still keeping tabs on things and posting commentary on certain things on LinkedIn. So you're still pretty dialed in. But yeah, well, what has it been like to, not get completely away from it, but not have to be completely on top of it all the time?
Yeah, I got to say that as you well know, tracking the news every day, daily, weekly, hour by hour, it is the biggest change from to this position is the pace is different. The pace is much different because you and I were sort of used to working on a hourly basis, get that story up, get the scoop, get it out there, and so the pace of work at Ookla is it's much different. It's get the data checked again, provide analysis, get some feedback, get the feedback checked, and then maybe we'll publish in a week. So
Okay. So a little
it's
bit different than the hamster wheel. Yeah.
it's a little different than the hamster wheel, and so that actually has been
Yeah.
for me personally, like getting used to the pace. Having done it for that same pace for 20 years, of something happens and you immediately start working on it to this much different pace. Boy, it is a adjustment that I think I'm still honestly getting used to. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to learn about all the different data sets that we can look at and the relation and how that data is obtained. There's a lot there, but really just getting used to the pace has been one of the hardest things.
Okay.
Enjoyable. I'm not complaining. In fact,
Just different.
a
Yeah.
slower pace, but a different pace is. I appreciate the challenge.
Okay. Well, good. And yeah, I know you're still keeping an eye on everything. So, we have the holidays approaching, and hopefully we'll both get a chance to decompress a little bit. But, as you look out into 2026, what are you, kind of in maybe the mobile world, or, wherever you want to take it, but what are kind of the big trends you're going to be looking at next year?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. We've identified a couple of different trends. There's several of them that different people on our analyst team are looking at. Network resiliency, is certainly one. Indoor wireless coverage is one. I would say the three that I'm really paying attention to right now, obviously AI, right? All of us are looking at AI as closely as we can. And so from our perspective, we're trying to figure out the data that we have, how is that applied to AI? And it can be applied to AI in a variety of ways, but we're still kind of figuring out, what does AI mean for the networks, and what do network performance characteristics, how do you apply that to this new AI question? So that's certainly one that we're looking at. And a related thing to that is, data sovereignty. Uh,
Okay.
that's another big topic, and that's actually one of
So what
the
is that?
yeah, that's one of the predictions that we've got for next year. We've got a sort of an official set of predictions, and that's one of them that's going to be important. Which is just, it's just literally having AI data live inside of a country, inside of a country's borders, and that's actually a pretty significant opportunity for some of the international carriers out there because in the U.S. it's not as much. Uh, AWS has tons of data centers. Google has tons of data centers. That's where a lot of this AI stuff is living. But in other countries around the world, and Ookla looks at a global basis. A lot of countries around the world do not have those kinds of resources. And so telecom carriers are really the first ones that are going to provide that kind of service, literally meaning building data centers where the AI can live, where the AI language models can live. And so we've seen that in Canada. We're seeing it in countries in Europe. And so that may be honestly, a pretty significant opportunity for telecom carriers to
To kind of put some
provide,
borders on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
provide sovereign data, provide a place for that data to live. So that's definitely one thing I'm looking at.
Yeah. Versus just having it spread all over the globe, willy
Yeah.
nilly. Okay. Wild, wild west of AI. All right. Well, light reading, you are all over what was going on in the world of Spectrum. And I know you love Spectrum and, because
Love the spectrum.
yeah.
Cannot get enough of the spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had to dip my head in there. There's a lot going on, but,
I do.
yeah.
I
So
miss the
yeah.
FCC ULS spectrum filing system. I occasionally go in there just to hang out and check out what's going on.
Yeah, just
Can't help it.
you go back to where where
Yeah.
you'd hang out and you'd keep track of, hey, who's buying what, who's deploying what's being auctioned, uh, and next year or maybe just what's happening now and what do you expect? I mean, what are some of the most intriguing or controversial things going on? I mean, I guess Echo Star and the upper C band have to be on that list.
Yep.
Maybe something else too.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think that as always, I think looking at what is happening with spectrum gives you an idea of what's coming, right? Because even we're still seeing now. Actually, just today I gave a presentation on U.S. and Canada, and it's interesting because the U.S. operators received their 5G spectrum, the mid-band spectrum, like C-band and the 3.45, and they've deployed it, and you can really see it in the Ookla results. The speeds are increasing, coverage is pretty substantial, and in Canada, they received that spectrum, but they have not yet moved into the broad deployment, and you can really see it in the results. That mid-band spectrum makes such a huge difference in terms of network performance and speeds, and so just extrapolating that into the future, it's like, well, where's the next big batch of spectrum coming from? You mentioned it, the upcoming C-band auction. That's definitely a big thing on everybody's calendar. But I think from my understanding, there is very little expectation that spectrum is going to be put into use anytime soon. So I think
The upper C band.
upper C band. I
Yeah.
think they're talking about auction in 2027, and so deployments wouldn't be until after that. Which really puts it in almost the 6G right time frame. They're talking 6G might be 2029, 2030 type thing, and so I think here in the sort of short to middle term, we're not seeing any big source of new spectrum coming to the market anytime soon, which definitely has implications for the wireless operators for services like fixed wireless. It definitely has implications. But then I'll say that, and then the other thing you mentioned is the EchoStar spectrum sale to SpaceX. And I would say of any of the things that are happening in the telecom industry right now, the SpaceX, Starlink, EchoStar spectrum purchase, I would say that that's the most interesting thing going on from my standpoint.
Yeah, yeah, and I wonder, when you're talking about the upper C band auction, is it going to be kind of a replay of the earlier one, or speaking of Starlink, would SpaceX jump in there and try to turn this Starlink mobile trademark into something?
Right.
And I swear, if EchoStar if they get in there and bid, can you imagine? Like,
Yeah.
that would just be like, oh man,
Yeah.
these
I
squatters.
really,
Yeah.
we shouldn't be surprised if they do, right? They've played in every auctions for the past 10 years. I mean, what's to stop them?
Yeah, right. I mean, they can bid, but they're going to be like, all
Yeah.
right, now what? You're going to sit on it, and then, anyway. But
Hmm.
what do you think is going to happen? I mean, I know it's a couple of years away,
Yep.
but are we going to have the MNOs in there? Do you think Elon Musk, this is his opportunity to do something
Yeah.
different?
It's a great question, right? Who bids? And I have to say that every auction that I've covered over the past, several decades now, at the beginning of every auction, I write a story about, oh, here's the dark horses. Here's the companies that may actually show up to bid on spectrum, and almost in every single case, the dark horses actually don't bid, and the incumbents come in and buy all the spectrum. We just saw it again and again. We saw it for the I think it was the 700 megahertz. We had a bid from I think we had a bid from Qualcomm, and we had some activity from Google, but that never really did play out. They never actually bought significant amounts of spectrum. We saw it again in C-band. We did see some dark horses show up. I think the only case that we've seen some surprising players come in was when the cable companies came in for the CBRS spectrum auction, right? Like they were pretty significant players in that spectrum auction. I think because of a variety of reasons, including the size of the licenses and the lower power nature of it. Are we going to see dark horses in the upper C band auction in 2027? I'd be surprised. I think if history is any indication, this will be an auction that will be dominated by the incumbents, like most other spectrum auctions are. And the reason is clear, right? They're all competing against each other. Spectrum is a huge part of that competition, and none of them can let the other ones get a lead on them. So they all need to participate. And then the final question you said about SpaceX Starlink, again, that's I think the most interesting question in the industry today. What they're going to do, I don't know. I mean, traditionally, SpaceX has been very vertically oriented. They do all the stuff themselves. They build their own rockets, they build their own satellites, they offer their own services.
Yeah,
they sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sell services directly to consumers. There is no no other provider in that scenario, and so for them to buy additional spectrum in order to support their service, that makes sense to me. They certainly seem to have the pockets for it. Deep pockets. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and you had mentioned cable. Yeah, probably would be a super super dark horse, right? I mean, they were in that AWS stuff, but then they ended up selling it and they turned it into the Verizon deal. So, I don't know what they would do with that spectrum, but the Starlink mobile idea is intriguing. I think that I wonder if MNOs and MVNOs should be worried about that possibility, but at the same time, would that kind of an offering still need to complement with a deal with like an AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon to make it happen in the U.S. to ensure that they have enough coverage, right? Because I mean, upper C-band, that's not enough, is it? To I don't know to base your service off of if you're going to do a mobile thing.
We're seeing so many interesting things out of SpaceX recently. I mean, they're hiring a bunch of people. They bought all that spectrum. You wrote about the Starlink mobile trademark that they've got. I saw a report recently that they're opening some retail stores. Presumably to sell, right?
I got something in the mail from them here, and I'm in south of Denver. I'm in a suburb. I'm not in a rural area, but yeah, they're marketing to me.
Right. So what to make of that? And is there a scenario where they would offer service, mobile service directly to customers instead of doing it through a provider like T-Mobile? I think that it'll be very interesting to see where that goes. I don't have any real good insights into what they'll do next, but they're certainly a company to watch. And the thing I think is most interesting is there's an investment banking event this week, and a question that came up repeatedly was, is Starlink going to build a network of ground-based repeaters in order to make its spectrum that it's buying from EchoStar work more efficiently for terrestrial users? Meaning, are they going to build a ground-based network in support of their in support of their MSS spectrum that they're buying from EchoStar that would come from the satellites, but have a ground-based receiver network in order to power up the signal.
Well, maybe
And
they can take over all the stuff that EchoStar had built.
right,
Right. I mean, they've already. I mean, they're going to end up just tearing it down. Right. It's
yeah.
like, well, hey, why not jump in there? I mean, all if you can take over the tower leases and everything.
Would you buy a Starlink mobile phone?
Would I? I don't know. I think
Assuming,
it would depend on. I mean, there would be some kind of cachet. Like, hey, look what I've got. I'm cool. But I think it would come down to it's like pricing and packaging, and like from a regular, just a typical consumer thing. But it's funny you mentioned that because I was having a little debate on LinkedIn with Peter Adderton with Mobile X,
uh-huh,
right? And knows this world better than everybody. And when I was writing about the Starlink mobile thing, he's like, "Well, how is that going to work from a branding standpoint? Because they're already partnered with like T-Mobile, and they're kind of it's kind of this D to D direct to device thing." And I had argued that to change a brand would be difficult because they got so much brand equity and awareness with Starlink, even though it's associated with satellites. I was kind of arguing that they probably would move ahead with that idea, but how would the MNOs, if a partner, react to that sort of thing? And I don't think we really know,
yeah, yeah. I think
what
right, and I will say that they have purchased spectrum right for their service, but the spectrum holdings that they have are nothing compared to what a T-Mobile has in a
yeah.
downtown Denver. It is way orders of magnitude. What T-Mobile has is way as orders of magnitude more than what Starlink has, and so certainly in downtown areas where there's a pretty solid 5G signal, there's no way to compare. And that's not even to mention in building coverage, which is where 80% of mobile connections happen anyway. Those that the Starlink spectrum is not great to
Yeah.
get inside of buildings.
Well, I think that's why they'd have to do like kind of if they can deploy what they want plus an MVNO deal to have the coverage. Otherwise, yeah, it's kind of feels like a non-starter. Uh, but kind of back keeping with the spectrum theme, right? CBRS, you mentioned that you were following that really closely in Light Reading, and I just spoke to a couple of advocates for the incumbents in that band, the cable guys and John Deere, and because the FCC and the NTIA are looking high and low for spectrum for 5G, and we talked about 6G, and they were saying that it feels like the threat faced by CBRS might be a little reduced now that the upper C-band auction has kind of sucked all the oxygen out of the room for the moment. I don't know if you'd agree with that, or do you think it's kind of TBD, and today's CBRS users will still have to live with some uncertainty hanging over their heads for a while?
Yeah, yeah, it's a real interesting question, right? And I don't know which direction it's going to go. I will say that the CBRS industry has definitely evolved over the past couple of years since that spectrum has been released. In the Ookla data, we can see some CBRS activity. For example, at DFW Airport has a big private wireless network using that band. We can see some of the results there. We can see some of Verizon's deployment of it in support of their 4G and 5G network. We can actually see a little bit of the CBRS network that Charter has been building in places like Charlotte and elsewhere. So that does show through in the data. So I guess my point is, like we are seeing some CBRS networks here and there. And so, changing the whole structure of that band would obviously put those operations, it would affect those operations. But that's not. I mean, there is precedent for that, right?
Is there?
they moved the TV signals out of the band, for 600 megahertz, so that could be auctioned for 5G.
Oh yeah.
They've so moving operations from one band into another. They've moved some of the military operations out of bands in order to auction that spectrum for 5G. So it's not
C-band.
impossible. Yeah,
C-band
C-band.
they did, right? They
C-band
had
had
all
the
the video
right TV
guys and
stations that got
they went
moved.
terrestrial or whatever. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so it's not impossible. It's just I think it's kind of a big ask, and there's a pretty significant lobbying operation going on to preserve the CBRS band as it is, and I think I agree that it does seem like upcoming upper C band auction and other spectrum resources may have quenched the thirst for additional spectrum. For now, we don't hear carriers like AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile. We don't hear them you know, really calling for the release of more spectrum quite as loudly as we have in the past. And so, I think it remains to be seen. But yeah, I don't know how much appetite there is in DC to really blow up the CBRS band as it is.
Okay. Well, the cable guys will be happy to hear that opinion. So
I would
very
assume
good.
so. Yeah.
So hey, we can throw you a little curveball with Trump Mobile, right?
Uh-huh.
The
Oh,
last
hang on.
story
I'm
I
getting
saw,
a
well,
call from Trump Mobile. No, I'm just
yeah, you have your gold phone yet? Yeah. I mean, the last story I saw was reading up on a little bit before we jumped on because I was like, oh, I got to ask him about Trump Mobile, but it's like, where is it, right? Because we reported on the original announcement, oh, we're going to be available in October, and this T1, the gold U.S. made phone, is going to be coming out, and it's surprise, surprise, nowhere to be seen yet. Instead, they're selling some refurbished Samsung and older iPhones like the 15s and the 16s with no like Trump branding. There's no like golden flag stamped on it, but they're selling those devices for like a lot more than what you might get elsewhere. Right? So, any surprises there? I mean, a little bit of gouging to be expected for those who want
yeah.
the Trump celebrity MVNO offering.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting to watch, right? And yeah, so the Trump branded stuff is certainly interesting. Whether it's phones or it's cryptocurrency or it's I don't know. They didn't even. I think he had a brand of steak
Bibles.
for a while. Yeah, Bibles.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I will say it has been interesting to watch the rise of MVNO brands, in the industry. You're very familiar with Xfinity Mobile, Spectrum Mobile, and
Yeah.
there's sort of this whole new crop of there's that Smartless podcast has
Yeah, with uh, the
yeah.
celebrities,
Mhm.
Jason Bateman. Yeah.
So they've got their own MVNO brand. Trump Mobile has their MVNO brand. I think it's obviously a lot of those brands are very niche, right? And it's in general, MVNOs have found it very difficult to compete on a widespread basis with the incumbents, and really the quote unquote MVNO brands that we've seen really successful are the ones that are already offered by the other carriers themselves, such as Visible
Yeah, the
from
M&Ms
Verizon.
are
Yeah, those
having their cake and eating it too,
exactly. They're
Yeah.
technically not even MVNOs; they're just flanker brands. But those are
Yeah.
those are the ones that have gained a lot of customers and a lot of ground. I'll say we do see some interesting things from some of the independent MVNOs. Like there's a company called US Mobile, and they have an MVNO agreement with multiple operators. And as a subscriber, you are able to change the network that you're on dynamically in real time. And so, there's a couple of interesting things going
Huh.
on in the MVNO space. And the other thing I'll say too is that there is potential for just straight MVNOs to be a pretty major player in a market. For example, in Mexico, we actually very carefully watch BAIT, BAIT. So that is an MVNO in the Mexican mobile market operated by Walmart. And
Walmart.
they have been very successful in the Mexican market. and it's an MVNO operated by Walmart.
Does Walmart have anything going on in the U.S. or is it like, hey, if we can make it in Mexico, hey, why not take a stab here in the
Exactly.
U.S.?
And so we haven't seen that yet, but
Yeah.
it's what
What?
I think what is a sign of is that those MVNO offerings and brands uh, are often very tailored to a specific audience. So Walmart's bait may make a lot of sense in Mexico and may not make any sense here. Time will tell to see if they'll launch here. But it's the same as maybe a Trump mobile makes a lot of sense for the next 3 years, but may not make sense after that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And who knows? The based on
Or
what
maybe will.
he's going to stick around. Well,
That's
we'll
true.
see. The Walmart thing is interesting. Do you have a feel as to like said they're successful in Mexico? What's made them successful? Is it just typical pricing and packaging, or do they? I don't even know if Walmart has like a store presence in Mexico. Off
They
the top
do.
of my head,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they have a very significant retail presence in Mexico, and
Okay.
my understanding is that the price is pretty good. Sold through Walmart retail outlets
Okay.
into a market that is very price sensitive, and so
Gotcha.
I can't quite remember all the metrics that we've seen on them, but in terms of market share, they're really quite impressive.
Okay. Great. And I think the last thing, let's talk a little bit about video, right?
Yeah, finally.
We can't get away without talking about Warner Brothers Discovery, right? At this moment,
Right?
because we have, well, right now, I mean, by the time this thing posts, it could be a completely different thing. But right now, Netflix has the official winning bid to buy the streaming and studio assets of Warner Brothers Discovery, and then the cable network piece would kind of spin out into a separate company. And then we've got Paramount Global, got kind of whiny, and then followed with a hostile bid, hostile bid for all of Warner Brothers Discovery. So they're going directly to the shareholders. And then there's all this intrigue about some Middle Eastern sovereign funds, on the Paramount side, and questions about, okay, who has the better shot to get it through the regulatory ringer, and who wants to kiss the ring, the gold one, of course, of Donald Trump, to get it done. And it sounds like both have been doing that. So we've been following it from an industry standpoint. But what do you make of this as like a consumer, right? Do you get Netflix and HBO Max today, and are you pretty content with the status quo, or do you think maybe one side or the other can make two things, 1+1, making three or something?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm watching it with great interest. I'm following your coverage of it with great interest. I mean, it's quite a story going on right now, and it really seems to be the future of the streaming video market hangs in the balance, because certainly if Netflix is able to acquire HBO, that's a huge chunk of the streaming market, and so
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see whether they do successfully close that deal and how that all shakes out. Here's what I'll say. I mean, the first thing is the most obvious thing, which is whoever owns The Simpsons is the one that I care about. That's the only show that I really am invested in to a heavy degree. And so I kind of don't care about other shows, but I'm really very interested in wherever The Simpsons lands, because I do want to watch The Simpsons if at all possible.
All right, so whoever has The Simpsons gets Mike Dano's dollar.
I don't care what it is, $10, $20 a month, $30 a month.
Just take my money.
$40. I know, and I'll have to stop buying as many donuts. Yeah, that's the only one I really care about. But here's what I was thinking about this is that I'm really excited about the next Avatar movie, because it is. Right? It's like
I watched the second one. I'm like, I got to rewatch it because I don't remember what the hell happened.
Yeah, no, it's right. It's a bunch of blue people running around.
Yeah, it's just a planet, and bad humans. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Humans,
right.
Destroyers of all things.
Yeah. I like movies that are big spectacles, big expensive spectacles.
Well, you're big into Marvel too.
Yeah, big into
You're a
Marvel,
Marvel
right?
guy.
I'll watch. Right, yeah, dude. If they have capes and fly around, I'll go see that. Yeah, I
Okay.
love it. I
Yeah.
have a watch it. So
Well, this
and
is
this
perfect for my next question, but continue.
and so in general, Netflix has not really displayed much interest in
Hmm.
big Hollywood blockbuster, go to the movie theater exclusively in movie theaters. So that's just from the consumer standpoint. That's what I am interested in. Is like, is this the end of the Avatar era of $400 million productions that only are available in movie theaters? Because if Netflix is ultimately successful and their model is ultimately successful, their model is really sort of cheaper stuff that's on streaming, and they don't go to the movie theater,
Yeah.
which I think
Well,
would be a loss. I would miss that.
yeah, I think that there's like Hollywood is like crapping its pants about this because Warner Brothers is this iconic studio, and movie theaters in the theatrical window has really been another big piece of the discussion and the debate. There's some fears that Netflix is just giving lip service that it will support the more traditional theatrical window beyond the token releases that it's been doing for its films, and the only reason it was doing it is so that they're eligible for the Oscars and other awards.
Yeah.
But really, my question was going to be, hey, do you even go to the movies anymore? But it sounds like you do, but only
Yeah.
for certain, the spectacle, the big tent poles, and not, um, an Adam Sandler comedy or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they basically have to be wearing capes. If I'm going to go to the theater, somebody has to be wearing a cape at some point, or a cowboy hat. That's also allowable. But yeah,
Cowboy hats and capes. Yeah. So, did you see Nosferatu? I don't know if he had a cape or not.
yeah, no, I haven't seen that one. I did.
Maybe it was capeless. Oh.
Yeah, I got to watch Horizon, the Kevin Costner
Hmm.
western. Oh, so good. Oh my gosh, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So that fulfilled the cowboy hat. Okay.
Yes, that checked one of the boxes. But yeah, are you? I mean, you don't go to the theater very much?
Not very often. I'm kind of like you. I think it has to be like a
Yeah,
big movie
yeah.
to go see it. Like I will probably go see Avatar. My wife was pushing us to go see the Running Man.
Hmm.
Because it was a little bit closer to the book than the Arnold Schwarzenegger
Right.
one. And when I was on vacation, I was like, oh, I haven't read The Running Man, the Stephen King, originally Richard Bachman book. And I just whipped through it. I was like, oh, this is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty good, right? I'm
yeah,
surprised at how different it is from the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I didn't know there
yeah,
was.
the Arnold Schwarzenegger was like
Yeah,
not even in the same
it's not the same.
zip code. So we'll see. So maybe we'll pop over and see that when things slow down a little bit. So.
Nice.
All right. Well, that's where we're going to leave it. So it's great to catch up with you, Mike, and I hope you have a great holiday. I look forward to raising a cup or two of holiday cheer here in a few days with our work and industry pals here in the Denver area. And but before we sign off, special thanks to Pierre Landau for editing this episode. And please be sure to subscribe to the Light Reading Podcast for future episodes, including Signal Strength and Nicole Ferraro's podcast called The Divide. So thanks for catching this episode. We'll see you next time.